we're going to wrap this episode up with looking at the schedule for the Cardinals going into the regular season. They are going to start week 1 on the road against the Washington Commanders. And, it really doesn't get much easier after that. It's, that those first 4 weeks, Commanders, Giants, Cowboys, and Niners, and then home against the Bengals in week 5. Personally, I think that's a pretty rough start for this team. We won't go game by game and give a analysis of each game because who knows what these teams are going to look like. Just coming into week 1, we don't know what they're going to look like, let alone week 10. So we won't go game by game, but we will give our thoughts on what we think this season is going to look like as far as win totals and just a quick overview of how we think the schedule is going to pan out. So, Connor, I'll go ahead and start with you. One, how many wins do you see this Cardinals team winning in this new era? And, what are just some things that you think we can expect to see this regular season?
So I definitely am coming at it with a more optimistic look. Uh, I I think that I have a really high opinion on Kyler Murray. I know we haven't talked about him a lot. He's injured at this point, but based on what we've been hearing, I think he's going to end up playing um, a solid amount of games this season. At least that's what it sounds like. We've already been seeing him moving and practicing and just out. It doesn't look like a guy who's not going to play this season. So to me, that beginning of the schedule is very, very rough. The schedule gets a lot easier after those first 5 games. I think that in a good world, this team is gritty. It's scrappy. We get out some good wins early on behind this defense and really just running the ball and playing physical. And then once you get Kyler Murray back, to me, you're plugging in an elite quarterback right away. So you plug in that elite quarterback, and the rest of that season looks a lot easier. To me, but once again, this is really optimistic, but I think that they can get to 9-8 and make the playoffs. This NFC is very weak, and I I don't really understand why the Cardinals in betting. I know that they're projected to win. I think it's 4.5 games. So I don't really understand that. I think that they're definitely going to smash that. That's something I'm going to be taking a piece of. But I don't really understand. I think that there's a lot worse teams. But yeah, once you get Kyler Murray back, I think he's going to prove everybody wrong. He's going to play great like he has most of his career, and especially around a team that's a lot more stable than the Cliff Kingsbury era, where you never knew what you were going to get week by week. So I'm hoping that we kind of hold steady, play well, play gritty. The team all kind of buys into what Gannon wants to do, and then you just plug in Kyler, and we could see where we can go from there.
Yeah, Ryan, before you go, real quick, I, yeah, Connor, you just said I kind of forgot that, we really haven't talked too much about Kyler Murray. And I just want to say that, like, all of us here on the podcast, believe it or not, are pretty pro Kyler Murray. I know that's kind of a wild thing to say at this time, which I don't understand, but I I'm a big time Kyler Murray fan. I don't care what anyone else says. I don't get where all this hate came from because like literally 2 years ago, he was like for a good chunk of the year, he was the front runner for NFL MVP. Um, until things just, slipped away. Not even for Kyler Murray, it slipped away for the Cardinals as a team with just like injuries and just everything just came crashing down. I don't put that on Kyler. I think the narrative that like he doesn't care about football and like I just think it's completely ridiculous. I mean there are like very few guys in the entire National Football League that have the talent of Kyler Murray to where like he was a top 10 pick in the MLB and the number 1 overall pick in the NFL. So like we saw what he did right away as a rookie and then the 2 years after that, obviously made the playoffs in his 3rd year. Yeah, we got blown out by the Rams, but we still made the playoffs. And then last year was like the like first like actual like thinker year that Kyler's had, and then now all of a sudden like that's just what he's known for, and I don't understand the hate at all. I really hope that like when he comes back, he just completely changes the narrative back to what it used to be. Like it's not even like we're looking way back and like, oh, he used to be so good. It's like it was 2 years ago where this guy was like leading us to the playoffs. And I just I've never seen like a narrative change so quick before. So those are my 2 cents on Kyler. Like I hope he comes back quick because like I miss watching him play. I really do. I like he does some crazy stuff on the football field, and people need to remember that because like I just don't get the hate at all. So, Ryan, what are your predictions for? I mean, you can talk about Kyler if you want, or
Yeah, actually,
either one.
Logan,
Yeah,
yeah, Logan, to go and piggyback off of your point right there as well. I think, look, Kyler Murray, I mean, last year it's no secret that it was a disaster for the Cardinals. And Kyler Murray, was also not, walking into the best situation come week one as well. People forget, I mean, he had a wrist injury and he was dealing with COVID during training camp. He also didn't have DeAndre Hopkins for the first 6 games of the season as well. And I really think too, like you really started to see his relationship with Cliff Kingsbury go south, like the fourth game of the year against the Panthers. I mean, and look, it's no secret that I think, from time to time, just us being Cardinals fans, there were times where Cliff Kingsbury's offense just looked disorganized. It looked out of sorts. It looked like guys didn't know what they were doing when they were on the field. And that's frustrating. I mean, especially when you're a competitor like Kyler Murray and you want to win on a weekly basis, that just had to be extremely disheartening for him. Not, and also on top of that as well, I think a lot of that built up frustration that, you clearly saw Kyler have towards Cliff was also because like he was in a sense, Cliff was holding Kyler back because if you look at it, I mean, Kyler's stats have kind of basically stayed the same. And I mean, he's put up good stats over, the course of the time that he's been in the NFL. But I just feel like, from time to time, Cliff just kind of gatekeeps him from that, from his full on potential of what he can actually be. And I think just so far from what we've seen from Kyler, just like, as far as like his body language and his attitude goes, you can tell that he's a lot more excited, now having a guy in Jonathan Gannon where it looks like he's not going to gatekeep him now and that they actually are going to entrust him a lot more as well. Because that was also, I think, another thing too with Cliff is that he wanted to be like almost a little bit too conservative with Kyler in a sense because he realized that I mean, Kyler, look, he's an undersized guy. He's 5'10". I mean, one hit and, there it goes. I mean, he could be out for the year. But also, like, look, I also share the same sentiment that you guys do as well. I'm a Kyler Murray fan myself. Um, I think that a lot of the hate that he's been given has just been due to like, some of his like, the body language that he shows on the field. Um, we've seen it from time to time where like he is like the hardest person like he gets super hard on himself especially like when he throws an interception or he gets sacked and I think sometimes people are quick to look at that and say oh well he's just a wussy and a sissy and he's you could just clearly tell like it's easy to get into his head but no he's a competitor look and he wants to win and I mean, hopefully Kyler can come out with, he can also be another one of those guys as well who comes out with a vengeance and really looks to go and regain that type of form that we were all accustomed to seeing as well. Because Logan, you just alluded to it as well. I mean, we've never seen a guy like Kyler Murray ever. I mean, to be like this dominant of an athlete. So yeah, no, absolutely. I share the same sentiment as well that I just hope Kyler comes out and just kicks some ass,
yeah,
you know.
yeah. Well, now that we got that out of the way, Ryan, you want to go ahead and give your win predictions for the Cardinals this year?
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what, Connor, I'm going to actually piggyback off of a point that you made because you said that the Cardinals were going to finish 9-8 and make the playoffs. It's certainly, I think, not out of the realm of possibility. And I'm just looking at a few games right here. I mean, because like
You have the Commanders and the Giants that, you obviously start off with in the first couple games of the year. Those are definitely winnable, especially since you don't know like what you're going to have with the Commanders. I mean, Jacoby Brissett looks like he's going to be maybe the quarterback to start there. And so like that could certainly be a winnable game. I don't care if the Cardinals have Kyler Murray or not. They should be able to beat the Commanders. With the Giants, I mean, you never know. Maybe last year was a fluke because mostly that offense ran through Saquon. And I mean, Daniel Jones, all he just had to do was manage the game. And that was just like, the perfect formula, for them to win games. With the Cowboys, I mean, going up against Dak and CeeDee Lamb and that dominant ball hawking defense, that could present a challenge for them. The same thing with the Niners. With the Bengals, I mean, obviously, if they're going to be going up against Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and Joe Mixon, that's also going to present problems right there. Um, then I also look at teams as well, like the Rams, the Seahawks, the Ravens, and the Browns as their next four. The Cardinals have proven, especially over the past couple of years, that they've at least been able to beat the Rams in Los Angeles. So, and you also don't really know, like, what type of form you're getting with Matthew Stafford and really just like the health and availability of Cooper Kupp. I mean, Cooper Kupp, I should say, really is going to be, one of the top. He's going to like, come out and be like, the Cooper Kupp that I think we're all accustomed to seeing. But Matthew Stafford, I think he's, that's going to be a little bit suspect. Same thing with the Seahawks. And just like, their ability to, I think, replicate what they did last season. With the Ravens, I mean, going up against Lamar is going to be a task. And with the Browns, I mean, you got Deshaun Watson and Nick Chubb, who, I mean, Nick Chubb is one of the top running backs in the NFL, and Deshaun Watson has proven that when he is certainly, not in trouble, that he is a good quarterback as well. And then you start to look at, like the games after that. You have the Falcons, Texans, Rams again at the Steelers. The Falcons and the Texans should be games that the Cardinals should win. Again, with the Rams, I mean, I already analyzed that previously. You really don't know what you're going to have with them. The Steelers and Kenny Pickett, I mean, who knows? I mean, he could either take a step forward or a step back. And I think like that's going to be a little bit suspect there. And then they have the bye week, and then they have the 49ers, Bears, Eagles, and Seahawks. Now, those last four games are going to be a bit tough. But if the Cardinals can at least maybe beat the Bears and the Seahawks, they might have a chance. But circling back to the main point here, look, I know sometimes, like, the reason why we're having probably this doubt with the Cardinals is because of the health of Kyler Murray, because he is, obviously like one of like the main heart and souls of the Cardinals offense. But I think like, like if he comes back, realistically speaking, by week 5 against the Bengals and the Cardinals are 2-2, they're going to be in a good position. And maybe, I mean, look to go and capitalize off of that momentum and maybe go on that playoff run. But circling back to the main question here, I would probably say it's, certainly not over the top to think that the Cardinals could win 9 games. So I'm going to have to say that as well. And yeah, 9 games and a playoff win. Right there with you, Connor.
All right, well, I'm gonna take a little bit of a step towards, I don't want to say realism, because like I'm not saying I disagree. I think that would be awesome. And I think there's definitely a capability, like this team's definitely capable if, all things go their way. But, in my opinion, I think this team is, best case scenario looking at about like 6 or 7 wins. But what I'm more focused on is like I want that to be like a good 6 or 7 wins. Like encouraged about the direction that this team's going to be moving in towards the future. And I think it's just hard to make predictions with this team right now because I think it all depends on how long Kyler Murray's out, and we really don't have like a confident timeline of when that's going to be. I mean, it could be it could be like as early as week 4 or 5, or it could be, up until week 12. But, I do think we see Kyler at some point this year. And, my predictions will, change based off of when we see Kyler suit up for the Cardinals. But I do think there's a very good chance that we're going to see Kyler this year. We're all excited to see him come back. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and, lock my prediction in at I'll go with 6 wins for the Cardinals. But like I said, um, I want that to be an encouraging 6 wins where, they're in a lot of the games that they lose, um, and just be an overall competitive team. So we got two two playoff appearances and 1 6 wins. So I mean, who knows how the Cardinals are going to be? They could win 2 games, or they could go for 9 and 10. So, or 9 or 10 wins.